Hello friends. Surely you haven't tasted king crab yet. Because the price of king crab is too expensive. Why is it so expensive? Today let's see how people catch king crab. Let's go. When fishing for Alaskan emperors, most fishermen, women use a so-called content, a trap with a square steel frame covered with a wire mesh. These pots can weigh anywhere from 600 to 800 pounds each. Depending on the size of the fishing boat, the crew will have from 150 to 300 jars per boat. Larger fishing boats of 100 feet or more average about 250 fishing rods. Box-shaped trap made from steel frame and covered with steel, used to capture base light. They weigh 600 to 800 pounds each. Pots can be more dangerous than mobile devices because they stay in one location and do not affect a large area of the seabed. Additionally, sand and sediment habitats are less affected by large king crab pots than other types of habitat. When fishing, king crab crews prefer to stay close to the edge because king crabs prefer water temperature. Freeze. The bait commonly used to lure king crabs is herring or cod, ironically the two kings prey. Sailors placed it in a basin and then lowered it to the seabed using a powerful hydraulic system. These pots are usually placed in a row to make it easier to pull them back up. Their position is marked on the water surface with buoys. After 1 to 2 days at sea, the pots are raised to the water surface and sorted on the boat was slid down to the general classification area, where deck attendants determined the emperor's body according to regulations. Those that do not meet the requirements will be returned to the water. The remainder will be stored in the live tank until the boat returns to shore. When fishing for Alaskan king crab, you must meet certain legal requirements, most of which revolve around crab size and capture season hit. For example, only Alaskan king crabs may be kept and quota limits strictly regulated. Anyone who violates this law will be heavily fined up to hundreds of frames. The reason for these regulations is to maintain the number of fish and quantity. The state of Alaska has also banned size and minimum limit restrictions, vessel registration, service seasons, kill requirements, and limited equipment regimes. Each year, fishing vessels are given a limited basis based on the previous year's catch and estimated biomass. The fishery is managed by the Department of Fish and Game to address Alaska's fishing needs. The North Pacific Fishery Management Council developed the Crab Rationalization Program. This program aims to address existing problems associated with final derby fishing, reduce bycatch and abandonment mortality, and increase safety for fishermen, fisherwomen by ending the fishing race. In 2006, the Bureau of Labor Statistics ranked the commercial trade occupation as having the highest fatality rate at 142 per 100,000 people. Alaska's emperor fishery doubled in size with more than 300 deaths per 100,000 fish. The main causes of death include hypothermia or drowning. Crew members have also suffered serious injuries or deaths due to the heavy equipment used to catch king crabs or the danger of becoming moraine on boats. However, in recent years, this profession has become safer due to the move to derby-style fishing, where crews would rush to complete their quota in a few days, competing with other boats. About 30 years ago, the king crab fishery was one of the highest-paying workplace in the United States. In the early 80s, during the outbreak of the King Fishing War, sailors earned from $1 to $2 million United States dollars per season, and fishermen brought home from $60 to $70 United States dollars each. Today, the structure remains similar, but the amount has changed. The gamblers receive a percentage of the total amount after deducting the boat owner's money, which averages around 8% to 10%. Greenhorns receive a fixed daily amount based on the time they spend on the boat. Players on newly arrived decks, i.e. new boats, typically earn 5% of the total adjusted catch. Becoming a king fisherman starts with quality testing. This is important because physical safety is at risk in cold temperatures, rough seas, and bulky equipment. Fishermen will also have to undergo a boat fishing course to train them how to work on crab boats. Orange crew members are responsible for their own commercial fishing license, typically $60 for an Alaskan resident, and all the equipment they need to do their job. At the end of 1950, Russian scientists began implementing a series of projects to bring sulfur into the Barents Sea. This initiative was successful. Today there are about 20 million emperors in the Barents Sea. This also led to a wave of imported Russian red emperors into the US market. Faster imports of Russian red emperors into the US have begun to lower wholesale prices of Alaskan emperors. So, recently not only fishermen and women have been affected by rising fuel prices, but also here they receive even less catch. It is unfortunate that the majority of the Russian imperial is being caught and exported illegally. Arkady Gonmarka, CEO of one of Russia's largest king crab importers, Global Fishing of Bellevue, Washington, was arrested last year for exporting poached Russian crab to the US. More conscious, one of the stars of the show, The Most Dangerous Catch, a boat and its crew usually go out to sea for 3 to 4 weeks at a time before returning. But it wasn't always like that. Until about last year, king fishing was still conducted like a derby. More than 250 boats registered at the same time to participate in fluorescent fishing lasting 3 to 4 days. However, with reduced available stocks, lower wholesale prices for king crab and the dangers associated with catching king crabs, fishing hours have been extended to prevent derby fishing. Today, there are only about 100 boats fishing for king crab. The hunter throws a hook to catch the internal line, then uses a pulley system to bring the tail back to the boat. The chef is a dedicated person on the ship. Meals for the entire crew. Beyond the deep, warm refuge of the fishing vessel lie deep waters and freezing temperatures. Although those who have made a career out of it have found the rewards worth the risk, as well as the painstaking meticulous work. Where do these people find king crab? Generally, it is found in Alaskan and Russian waters, although each type of crab has its own specific region and habitat. Sources of blue base fluorescence are commonly found off the Pribilof Islands and St. Matthew. We usually fish somewhere around 600 feet deep in the tidal zone, or the part of the ocean that is underwater at high tide and exposed at low tide. Golden king crabs exist around the Aleutian Adak Islands and deeper in the water 600 to 1,600 feet deep. Fishermen mark the depth of each basin with buoys for identification. Red king crabs often roam the more physical terrain of the sandy and silt ocean floor, ranging in depth from 120 to 600 feet, approximately like automatic light green fluorescence. Among all king crab species, king crabs are the most sought after commercially. Red king crabs are also less aggressive than green or yellow king crabs. Red king crabs live in Bristol Bay, Norton Sound, Aleutian Adak Islands, Gulf of Alaska, Sea of Okhotsk, Pribilof Islands and Kamchatka. In general, king crabs are very sensitive to water temperature and prefer open waters. Freeze, so it is not unusual for red emperors to migrate 1 mile per day. Red and blue king crabs tend to move from shallow water to deep water each year. Although the season will depend on fishing guidelines or restrictions established during the year, king crab fishing takes place during the winter months of October through January every year. From July to December in Norway, fisherman Helge Havnen, Arlesund, have to repair crab traps 2 to 3 times. The most damaged part is the string. The tie is a thin cotton string, no more than 3 mm in diameter, used to connect the trap pieces into a complete trap. According to Norwegian law, Helge is required to use this type of rope to ensure crab safety. In Norway, crabs are caught using separate traps, with virtually no impact on the local environment. Designing traps in accordance with the law ensures safety for the development of crabs in the wild. Crab traps can be square, rectangular, cylindrical, but are usually closed cages with entrances and exits for the crabs. The net used as a trap must not have eyes that are too small so that small crabs or crabs carrying eggs can easily escape. Inside the trap is a bag filled with bait made from cod or mackerel soaked in pickles. Traps can be arranged individually or connected in chains of up to 20 traps on a long rope. When held Helge releases traps, he must remember how many traps his necklace has and in which area he should release the traps. Typically, Helge will mark trap locations on the ship's GPS map. When pulling traps, you also have to count to see if you have picked up all the traps that have been placed. In case it is found lost, it is necessary to search or report to the authorities to get it back. Leaving lost traps floating at sea will cause insecurity for the sea, pollution, ghost traps, accidents for sport divers. For the design of crab traps, the Norwegian government also has regulations. Certain crab trap rope must be cotton, not nylon. If the trap is lost and the crab trap cannot be picked up, this type of rope will rot on its own after 3 to 4 months of soaking in seawater. Then the crab can escape while still alive, and the waste from the rope does not harm the marine environment. In addition, the trap must have 2 trapdoors and 2 exits on both sides. In particular, the escape doors are only sealed with cotton fibers, so after a while, if fishermen do not check the traps placed at sea, the cotton fibers will dissolve on their own. Animals caught in traps will be managed under the Bering Sea, Aleutian Islands King Crab and Tanning Fishery Management Plan, which defers fishery management to the state of Alaska with federal oversight. State regulations must be implemented in accordance with the Occupational Management Plan, the National Standards of the Magnuson-Stevens Act, and other. The Red Emperor fishery is currently managed according to the 3SS, size, sex and season. Only stallions of the latest defined size are caught and may not be caught in any distribution and courier transactions. This measure helps ensure that you can reproduce and replace what has been caught. Fishermen must attach steel plates and escape rings on their cages to prevent ghost fishing, when lost cages continue to capture and kill species, and to reduce bycatch. Each year, managers set income limits for the starting fighting season using the most recent estimates of crab numbers. Managers analyze additional targets for targets, variants and marine communities through the Streamline program, developed in 2005 to address economic, safety and environmental issues in the job. The program includes a community development cap, protecting community interests by allowing community groups a percentage of income. They were given the opportunity to purchase shares in the fishery before the shares were offered for sale outside the community. Vessels carry ship surveillance systems, satellite communication systems used to monitor fishing activities, and must report their angles. Electronically managers monitor catch activity in real time and can close occupations when catch limits are reached. Observers are required on 20% of vessels in the fishery. They collect data on catches and bycatch and record any violations of fishing regulations. Red Emperor fishing has been banned in the Pribilof Islands and the Western Aleutian Islands for many years according to NOAA Fisheries Commercial Assessment Database. In 2022, the total catch of Emperor in Alaska reached 4.5 million pounds and was valued at $40 million. Red king crab is primarily caught in Bristol Bay. Some of the catch also comes from the Norton Sound fishery. Types of equipment, impacts on habitat and bycatch. People use nets with nets 7 to 8 square meters wide to catch red king crabs. Crab traps may accidentally capture female crabs, which may not be caught. Crabs below commercial size and non-target crab species, as well as a small number of other species including octopus, Pacific cod, Pacific halibut, other flatfish, sponges, corals and starfish. The regulations require fishermen to attach escape and fire escape panels to cages to prevent ghost fishing, when cages are lost, and continue to catch and kill species, and to minimize bycatch. Habitat impacts from the red emperor fishery are negligible because the fishery occurs in sedimentary areas such as mud and mud. The soft sediment is unlikely to be damaged by fishing gear. Crab traps are less harmful than mobile fishing gear because they are stationary and contact a much smaller area of the seabed. The red emperor fishery has been closed in the Pribilof Islands since 1999 to avoid overfishing of the blue emperor in the Pribilof Islands. Fishing in Bristol Bay has been closed for the 2021-2022 and 2022-2023 fishing seasons due to low numbers of adult females. There's nothing better than a delicious leg feast, but knowing which one will be right for you requires a little crab knowledge. Crabs come in many different sizes, shapes, configurations and flavors. The two most common types are snow crab and king crab, but they have many notable differences. So what is the difference between snow legs and king crabs? We have different flavors, right? If both species of crab are so popular, which one should you choose for your
so that the inshore fishery doesn't disappear. We don't want companies buying into it.
Your next meal at a restaurant or at home. At Skull Creek Boathouse, we have all the answers to all your snow crab and king crab questions. From choosing crab legs to how to cook and prepare them, crab meat is an easy dish to eat, even for those who do not eat much seafood. Crab meat is usually sweet, and the white meat with red paint is very attractive in almost any dish. We explore the differences between emperor and snow to help you make the best choice for your next order.